Let's start our session today. First of all, let's pay homage to the Supreme Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. The Noble Triple Gem bless you all. Today, once again, we are going to start yet another Dhamma discussion. So last week that we have discussed about the hindrances, the topic under the mindfulness based on the mental factors, Dhammanupassana. So today that we are going to extend our discussion. There are some small topics other than the hindrances. Let's see what they are. We are discussing the page number 77 onwards. The difference between mindfulness and concentration. Perhaps those who contemplate upon aforesaid factors might be confused with mindfulness and concentration. Here is the difference between the two. The thing that holds on mind to a particular object without distracting it among many objects and conveys the mind to the object again and again is mindfulness. Having firmly established itself on the object that strives to establish the mind also on it without distracting among many objects is concentration. Mindfulness is not a separate thing from concentration. Always it is connected with concentration. There is no wholesome concentration without mindfulness. Every wholesome concentration exists with mindfulness. So we can clarify this further when we consider about the mental factors. So the mindfulness is a wholesome mental factor that we know there is something called sati. It's a wholesome mental factor. And it is common for all wholesome consciousnesses. That we know there are 19 common or universal wholesome mental factors which appear in all the wholesome consciousnesses. Sobhana sadharana. So then the concentration is one of the chetasikas that we can find in the prakirnaka as prakirnaka chetasikas. That is called ekaggata. Not prakirnaka, the universals. The sarvachitta sadharana mental factors. That is called ekaggata. Ekaggata is the one that we discuss here as concentration and samadhi. So ekaggata, or the concentration as a mental factor, it appears in all the chittas, even unwholesome chittas. But here with sati, when it appears in sati, it does the act of samadhi. So that is a difference that we have to understand. The mundane and supramundane difference of the establishment of mindfulness. There are two kinds of establishments of mindfulness. They are mundane and supramundane. When practicing vipassana, the establishment of mindfulness that occur before the arising of the path of supramundane consciousness are mundane. The establishments of mindfulness that are available in the consciousness of supramundane path and fruitions are supramundane. Among the mundane consciousness, there is no availability of the four establishments of mindfulness simultaneously. The establishment of mindfulness of contemplation of body can be found while observing and practicing vipassana on the parts of the body like head, hairs. The establishment of mindfulness of contemplation of feelings can be found while observing and practicing vipassana on feelings like pleasant feeling. The establishment of mindfulness of contemplation of mind can be found while observing and practicing vipassana on mind, like the mind affected by the lust as lust and unaffected by the lust as unaffected by lust. And the establishment of mindfulness of contemplation on mental objects as mental objects can be found while observing and practicing vipassana on any other objects apart from body, feeling and mind. Thus, mundane establishment of mindfulness can be found only one at a time in mundane consciousness. As a result of practicing vipassana by dispelling the misconception of permanence, nitya, happiness, pleasantness, sukha, and self-atma, regarding the parts of body like head hairs, or practicing vipassana on feeling, dispelling misconceptions of feelings pertaining to feelings, or practicing vipassana on mind, dispelling misconceptions in mind, and practicing vipassana on mental objects as mental objects, dispelling misconceptions regarding mental objects. One day, the practitioner comes to the state of supramundane path consciousness by developing the establishment of mindfulness. By the power of that supramundane path consciousness, the misconception of permanence, happiness, pleasantness, and self regarding body, feeling, mind, and mental objects will suddenly disappear forever. Therefore, because of dispelling of misconceptions of body mindfulness that belongs to the supramundane path becomes contemplation of body as well. Because of the dispelling of misconception of feelings, it becomes the establishment of mindfulness of contemplation of feelings, and because of the dispelling of misconception of mind, it becomes the establishment of mindfulness of contemplation of mind as well. Dispelling the misconceptions of the other things, it becomes the establishment of mindfulness of contemplation of mental objects as mental objects. Thus, since the same mindfulness that belonging to supramundane path does the function of all the four establishments of mindfulness, it is said that all four establishments of mindfulness are experienced simultaneously with the gaining of supramundane path. So here what explains is the mundane mindfulness and supramundane mindfulness. So in the mundane mindfulness, as we've discussed before, there are four mindfulnesses. So it works at once. For example, when we consider the mindfulness based on body, so only that mindfulness works. But when we look at the supramundane, all the four mindfulnesses work simultaneously as discussed before, because it dispels the misconceptions as we discuss that we have, the mundane consciousnesses or the mundane people have the misconceptions, the body as the self, and then the consciousness they take as the self. Like that, all the five aggregates, they take as self, and pleasant and what do you call this three? Permanent. Nitya, Sukha, Atma. These three, they dispels when they arise, the supramundane consciousnesses in their consciousness or the mind stream. I hope that you understand the difference between these two supramundane mindfulness and mundane. The benefit of the establishment of mindfulness meditation. Monks, these four establishments of mindfulness, when developed and cultivated, lead to going beyond from near shore to far shore. Chattaromi bhikkhave satipatthana bhavita bahuli kata aparaparam gamanaya samvartati. Monks, those who have neglected these four establishments of mindfulness have neglected the noble path leading to the complete destruction of suffering. Yesam kesam chi bhikkave chattaro satipatthana viraddha. Viraddha tesam ariyo maggo samma dukkakkaya gamini. Monks, dwell with your mind well established in four establishments of mindfulness. Do not let the deathless be lost on you. So here the Buddha has encouraged the monks and the followers to practice establishment unless that they would lose the opportunity to achieve the supreme bliss of Nibbana. And that's what here mentioned as deathless Amata. Once Venerable Arahant Anuruddha, when inquired by a group of monks about the cause of the greatness of his direct knowledge, revealed in this manner. So once Venerable Arahant Anuruddha Thera was questioned about his greatness by a group of monks, then he explained why he got that special abilities. Friends, it is because of the development and cultivation of the four establishments of mindfulness. I came to the state of greatness of direct knowledge. Direct knowledge here means the understanding or the penetration of the arahanthood. It is because of the development and cultivation of the four establishments of mindfulness. Properly, I see 1,000 eons, both to the past and to the future. I have skills in performing various kinds of miracles. Having been one, I become many. Having been many, I become one. I can see many things which cannot be seen through this naked eye. I am skilled enough even to conceal the things that are inside. I can go through walls, ramparts, and mountains. I am skilled enough to immerse in the earth like water. I can walk on water without breaking the surface like that on earth. I can go through the air like a bird. Even I can touch this great powerful sun and the moon. I exercise mastery with the body as far as Brahma world. I can hear many kinds of sounds, both the divine and the human. Those are far as well as near, which cannot be heard through one's bare ear. I am skilled in understanding other minds. I can analyze and understand the minds of beings when affected by lust, etc. I am skilled in understanding as it really is the causes of things as they are, why things happen in such and such a way or not. I know the result of past, future, and present, karma by way of potential and by way of cause. I can understand as it really is the way that how beings are heading to different destinations. I am skilled enough to understand as it really is the diversity in the disposition of beings. I understand diversity in the disposition of beings. I understand as it really is the degrees of maturity, the spiritual faculties of other beings and persons. I understand as it really is the waning of cleansing, an emergence in the regard up to the jhanas, their deliverance, concentration, and attainments. I recollect my manifold past abodes as they really were. I see as they really are how beings pass away and are reborn to different existences according to their karma. Having destroyed all things, I have achieved the state of arahantship. So the Venerable Anuruddha Thera explains these abilities because that he had practiced fourfold mindfulness perfectly. That is why that he was able to become this great, this much great. According to the great discourse of the establishment of mindfulness, Mahasatipatthana Sutta, the person who develops and cultivates the four establishments of mindfulness depending upon his effort and the maturity of perfection attains either the state of non-returner by complete eradication of sensual lust and the revulsion or arahantship by complete extinction of all defilements within a maximum of 7 years of minimum of 7 days. The great support to be extended to your friends. The Buddha once said, monks, if you have compassion and think that someone would listen to you, whether they are your friends or colleagues, relatives or kinsmen, you should settle and establish them in the development of 4 establishments of mindfulness. Ye bhikkave anukampeyat, yecha sotabbam manyeyum, mittava amacchava jnātiva salohitava. Tevo bhikkave chatunnam satipatthānānam bhavanāya samadhapetabba. Therefore, the great support that you can extend to your friends, if possible, would be sharing with them the establishment of mindfulness. Practicing the establishment of mindfulness is a great refuge, protection for beings. The decline and the development of Buddhism. The Buddhists talk on many ways for the non-decline and the development of Buddhism or the dispensation of the Buddha. But most of them who think and act in this manner do not really know the greatest thing to be done for the purpose, for that purpose. Once, while the Buddha was living, a certain Brahmin came to the Buddha and asked the causes for the enduring and not enduring of the dispensation of the Buddha after passing away of the Buddha. The Buddha then said, Brahmin, it is because of not developing and cultivating the 4 establishments of mindfulness that the dispensation would not endure long, and it is because of developing and cultivating the 4 establishments of mindfulness that the dispensation does endure long after passing away of the Tathagata, the Buddha. According to this utterance of the Buddha, it is clear that the best service that one could render for the development of dispensation is practicing the establishment of mindfulness. Therefore, the true friends who are yearning the benefit of oneself and others, the betterment of the dispensation and the attainment of Nibbana by complete release of samsaric suffering, may practice meditation on the establishment of mindfulness. May they put others also into practice of meditation on the establishment of mindfulness. So this is a description of about the mindfulness and the benefit and the differences between sati and samadhi and etc. So anything to discuss here about what we discussed so far?
Avasara Bhante, at the very beginning where we talk of, let me just read it.
Sati Samadhi, mindfulness and concentration?
Yes, Bhante. They are in that. So it says the thing that holds on mind to a particular object without distracting it among many objects and conveys the mind to the object.
Yes.
Again and again is mindfulness. So the key word is without distracting. But when we go on to the next sentence, in that sentence also, the key emphasis appears to be without distraction. So I'm trying to fathom
the sati,
what is the difference then?
Yes, the sati means when we develop sati, it reminds when mind goes away from the particular object or to unwholesome objects. So that's what sati does. It always brings, it's like a reminder, brings this, the sati, or the mind to the object, wholesome object. But what concentration does is it keeps on the certain object for some time. So that is the difference. So sati is the reminder, and it always puts the mind onto the certain object when it goes away to the unwholesome.
So sati is really needed only where there is no concentration.
The thing is, as I mentioned, these two works together in the wholesome consciousness. The unwholesome, even unwholesome consciousness, the concentration as the ultimate reality, as a chetasika, it works there as well. In unwholesome chittas as well, because there should be some, concentration even in unwholesome chittas as well.
So when the concentration exists, Bhante, there is no need for mindfulness because you are your mind is on the object.
Yes, but the thing is, we have to develop the ability to keep on a particular object for a long time. That's the difference. And we know that we call samadhi, that we can only call samadhi to the concentration is when we develop it to a certain level, like dhyana, something like that. Then we discuss like upachara samadhi, arpana samadhi, things like that. So yes, it develops to, we have to develop it to a certain level. Then only we can say samadhi. It does the function of the samadhi. Otherwise it barely does the job of samadhi.
So if one achieves the status of samadhi, then the function of sati is actually not relevant any longer. Because the mind does not wander.
Yeah, but we can't say like that because the sati is a wholesome mental factor. which appear in all the wholesome chittas, even the dhyana chittas, the samadhi that we can find.
Thank you, Bante.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, Bante.
Yes.
So, does it mean that samadhi, at mundane level, you can't reach samadhi? Is that right?
Yes, we can't, I mean, if we not develop jhanas,
Yeah.
yes, as I mentioned, still that when we understand the mental factors, right?
Yeah.
Samadhi is the ekaggata mental factor.
Samadhi is ekaggata. Yeah.
Yes. So it appears in all the consciousnesses.
Even the unwholesome, Bante.
Even the unwholesome, yes. The thing is, we have to develop it. When we develop it, we can't develop it only that one, because there are some other wholesome mental factors as well. But it does the fact, or I mean, the act of jhana, when we develop it to the jhana level, that is what we call samadhi.
Bante, but the ekaggata is in the universal mental factors. So it means that even when one hasn't developed it, it still exists.
Yes, it is almost like the panya that we discussed. Like the panya, it has different levels, right? The mundane level panya, and then we can develop it to the supramundane. Like that, it has a vast, I mean, the capacity.
Range.
Yes, vast range. Sati is also same. All these wholesome factors is the same. I mean, same means the diversity, the range is different to each one, and to everyone is different, and even single person, when it appears in wholesome chittas, these wholesome factors changes.
So the word is used about the quality of the mind staying on the object is actually the quality
Samadhi.
that is samadhi.
Yes.
The ekaggata.
Yes.
But the extent to which it is developed is what we are talking of, that we have to do.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So as we discussed, it appears in all the consciousnesses, even unwholesome, because when when beings do unwholesome things, that they have to focus on a particular object.
Yes. So
Yes. So when it comes to wholesome chittas, we have to develop in wholesome object, with wholesome object. Anything to discuss, or we can move on otherwise? Here that about Venerable Anuruddha Thera, Arahant Anuruddha Thera, it's quite interesting, the abilities that he had gained. It is almost like the 10 powers of the Supreme Buddha, that the Buddha has the 10 powers, which is called Tathagata Bala. It seems like almost identical.
yes, it sounds similar to what Buddha would achieve.
Yes.
And that's just through the four.
Yes, developing the fourfold mindfulness, the benefits of this.
Very powerful.
Yes. So the best thing that we have to develop, we have to do to development of the Buddhism is to develop these fourfold meditation methods. That's the best service that the Buddhist can do, as mentioned here,
Yes, Bhante.
to the development of the Buddha Sasana.
Building temples doesn't come in there.
But it partially helps. Okay, let's move on to the second factors of the enlightenment. So we've discussed the first 4 factors of the enlightenment. So there are 33 rest that we have discussed. So let's see the second group of factors of enlightenment. The 4 right strivings. Satara Samyak Pradhan Virya. Monks, there are these 4 right strivings. What for? Here, monks. A monk generates desire for the non-arising of unarisen evil, or unwholesome states. He makes effort, arouses energy, applies his mind, and strives. He generates desire for the abandoning of arisen evil. Unwholesome states, he makes effort, arouses energy, applies his mind, and strives. He generates desire for the arising of unarisen wholesome states. He makes effort, arouses energy, applies his mind, and strives. He generates desire for the maintenance of arisen wholesome states, for their non-decay, increase, and expansion. And fulfillment by development, he makes effort, arouses energy, applies his mind, and strives. These are the 4 right strivings. So there are 2 about unwholesome and 2 about wholesome. So one who tries to develop these factors of enlightenment, he has to put these 4 types of effort. Chattaro me bhikkhave samappadhana katame chattaro. Ida bhikkhave bhikkhu anuppannanam papakanam akusalanam dhammanam anuppadaya chandam janiti. Vayamiti viryam arabhati chittam pagganhati padahati. Like that, there are 4 Pali chapters here. I'm not going to read them, as I mentioned the meanings before. This is how the Buddha has taught the 4 right strivings in the Sammapadhana Samyutta. Unlike the fallen leaves and twigs under the trees, it is quite difficult to gain things that are valuable. One has to work hard in order to gain valuable things like gold, silver, pearl, gem, money, clothes, ornaments, food and drink, lands and vehicles, etc. Whatever the things or position, greater the thing or position, more and more is the effort to be made to gain it. Even to get a position of a clerk, one has to learn starting from the age of 5, 6, and learn for many years. And then learn for many years. Being lazy, one cannot engage in that and would never be able to become a clerk. There's nothing to say about how long one has to work hard to get a better position or status. It is immeasurable the worthiness of the 9 supra-mundane Dhamma of the 4 paths, 4 fruitions, and Nibbana when taken separately. So they are called Navalokuttara Dhamma. So here it is explained the importance or the vitality of developing these the 4 types of efforts. As mentioned here, even to get a position of a clerk, he has to learn a number of years. So in order to gain these, the immeasurable, the supramundane status, so he has to put a tremendous effort to gain those, the supramundane qualities. Once referring to the attainment of stream entry, the Buddha said, supramundane fruition of stream entry is better and nobler than sole sovereignty over the earth. As a wheel-turning monarch, better than going to heaven, better even than lordship over all worlds, including heavens and Brahma worlds. Patavya eka rajyena saggassa gamanenawa sabbalokaadipacchena sota patti palam varang. The person who has personality belief even becomes the wheel-turning monarch, heads of gods and heads of Brahma. As there are unwholesome results of karma done in the past, he is a warranted person to take to hell. His pleasures in the palace is only for a short time, just like the dancing and swimming of a crab in the pot on stove until the water is boiled. Even such a person who is destined to go to hell is not completely refrained from unwholesome deeds. This is the nature of all untaught ordinary humans. Sometimes because of their merit, they might be elevated up to the highest point of the universe, yet having expired from there, they are reborn in hells. Therefore, whatever position the state of untaught ordinary person is extremely dangerous. So if someone is in ordinary state or have not reached the state of Sotapanna, he is in a dangerous position, extremely dangerous position. As mentioned here, even Sakriti Raja, wheel-turning monarchy, or even other Brahmas or other gods, or whatever the sensual pleasures that they enjoy, doesn't matter. Still they have enormous amounts of karmas, unwholesome karmas, the potential to get their rebirth in hells. So that is the danger of the ordinary person, or the, as mentioned here, untaught ordinary humans. Untaught means those who have not penetrated the teachings or not learned the teachings. Asutava putujjano. One day, while going from house to house, collecting his alms, the Buddha, having seen a soul, smiled. Then when Venerable Ananda asked, Venerable Sir, what is the reason for smiling? Then the Buddha said, Ananda, did you see that soul? The story of the pig? Yes, sir, he said. Therefore, the Buddha revealed Ananda, in the time of the Buddha, Kakusanda, this soul lived as a hen near a hotel. While there, she listened to a recitation of a chanting of Vipassana, chanted by a practitioner, and as a result of that, she was born as a princess named Ubbari. One day, seeing a cluster of maggots in a cesspit, and being disgusted of it, she attained the first jhana. And after that, she was reborn in the Brahma world. From there, she died and was reborn here as a soul. This is why I smiled. So this shows the danger of being an ordinary person. So one time that he can be like animal, then can be a Brahma, then can be a princess, again can be an animal. Like that, that's the nature of untaught ordinary beings. Even though they come to the state of happiness, having declined, they then come to the woeful state. This is the nature of untaught ordinary persons. Woeful states here means the Chattaro Apaya, the four hells. Not only the ordinary persons, even the aspirant Buddha, the Bodhisattva, who has pledged to be the Supreme Buddha, from time to time come to the states of high and low. In accordance with the birth story of Themian, our aspirant Buddha, having ruled a country for 20 years, as a result, had to suffer in the hell for 80,000 years. Therefore, it is to be understood clearly. And living with the seed of hell of personality belief is certainly dangerous. If anyone is engaged in practicing the establishment of mindfulness meditation diligently and destroying the seed of hell of personality belief and come to state of stream enterer, she will never reach the hell and will never do any unwholesome deeds that cause to be reborn in hell. So destroying personality belief or self-identity is the main thing that one has to do to stop being reborn in the woeful places, hellish places. In order to do that, he has to attain Arahant, so the stream entry. In order to do that, he has to eliminate the self-identity, personality belief, which is called Sakkaya Ditthi. Even the wheel-turning monarch, if not attains the state of stream enterer, the chances to be reborn in hells are limitless. Therefore, the fruitions of stream entry, which completely prevents beings from hells, it worthier not only to one state of wheel-turning monarch, but also thousands, 10,000s, and millions and billions. So this emphasizes the importance of being a stream enterer. Such a great and esteemed fruition of stream entry cannot be gained involuntarily. There must be a sufficient effort. Right striving means a sufficient effort that one should be made for the attainment of supramundane Dhamma of the four paths, four fruitions and Nibbana. For the one who started to practice meditation on the establishment of mindfulness with the intention of attaining enlightenment by associating with true friends, listening to the sublime Dhamma, etc., there arise numerous difficulties to discontinue it. Sometimes she might become weak without having enough food and drinks to get sick. If he or she has a spouse and children, then disturbances arise from them. If he or she has wealth and properties, then they become disturbances. Relatives are disturbances. Poverty is a disturbance. There arise problems from enemies. Sometimes discursive thoughts of sensual pleasure arise by seeing others are indulging sensual pleasures. In relation to some factors, even thoughts of ill will and cruelty arise. It is because of all these things the practitioner needs to find time to engage in them. As a consequence, either he has to reduce, suspend, or completely stop practicing meditation. One should have a strenuous striving to endure the above factors and practice meditation on the establishment of mindfulness without decline of it until the attainment of supramundane paths or even a mundane jhana. Right striving is a name for that strenuous effort. Only my skins, knives, and bones may remain. May my blood and flesh dry out. Whatever the supramundane Dhamma attainable through mainly striving, mainly valor, whatsoever the cause, without achieving it, I will never ease my striving and stop meditation. Kamang tachocha naharocha atticha avasissatu upasussatu sarire mansalohitang yantang purisa tahamena purisa parakkamena pattabam na tang apatva viriyassa santahanam bhavissati. So it is about fourfold efforts. That is the striving made by the ascetic Siddhartha just before his striving for the attainment of enlightenment. So that fourfold striving is the right striving here. Because of the power of fulfillment of perfection through many lifetimes in the past, persons like the one who understands quickly Uggati Tanyu, and the one who understands through liberation, Vipanchi Tanyu, attain the states of path and fruition by listening to the Dhamma in the time of the Buddha and right after the Buddha. Those who are remaining now are the Nyaya. Nyaya meanings those who are not skilled enough to attain establishment simply by listening to the Dhamma. The above-mentioned fourfold strivings are really needed for them. They have to practice a long time with an arduous striving for the attainment of the state of path and fruitions. Although many people say now the time for the gaining of path and fruitions is over, and thereby during this time, nobody can attain the supramundane states. What it really means, since there are no persons nowadays to make striving to the limit that the Buddha has recommended, not attainment of supramundane states. That limit is practicing meditation continuously to the end of life, even to dry out blood and flesh and remains only skin and knives. One should come to the decision that the cause of failure is the time frame. Only after striving at least 200, 300 persons to the limit that the Buddha has recommended. In the Tripitaka, 3 baskets, Sutta, Vinaya, and Abhidhamma, nowhere we find a trace of utterance of the Buddha that the state of paths and fruitions could be gained only up to this particular time, and beyond that it is impossible. If there is a particular time for the gaining of paths and fruitions is in this dispensation of the Buddha, that is certainly important. There is no reason for not mentioning such as essential thing to be known by Buddhists. In the vast volumes of Tripitaka, which is encrypted with immense factors, it is not mentioning in the Tripitaka because there is no such limitation of time for the attainment of paths and fruitions. On the day that the Buddha passed away, he said to the wanderers, Subhadda, if these monks dwell properly, this world would never be devoid of arahants. Imecha Subhadda bhikkhu samma vihareyum, asunyo loke arahantehi assa. It shows us that if practiced properly, enlightenment is possible at any time. So this, the Venerable Thero explains, there is no any specific time limit to attain these supramundane states. The only thing is now the followers or the beings do not practice, do not try to practice up to the level that the Buddha mentioned as 4 types of efforts as mentioned before. So that is why that the beings are not seem to be attaining these the supramundane states. So it is not the fault of the teachings of the Buddha, as he mentioned at the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, the very last follower. If the monks dwell properly, there won't be devoid the Arahantas in the world. All those who attained Nibbana in the past did not attain easily. For instance, Venerable Chakkupala attained Nibbana by practicing meditation without sleeping until he became blind. Venerable Pitimalla attained Nibbana with a great striving by walking as long as possible and then by kneeling. One night while he was kneeling, a certain hunter shows him, and assuming that it was a deer, shot him with an arrow. The Venerable then pulled it out and threw it away and covered the wound with a ball of grass, sat down on a rock and practiced meditation, giving up any hope of life, and attained arahanthood during that same night. When Venerable Milak attained the state of fruitions of non-return, and by practicing meditation, keeping a bundle of wet hay to his head and putting his feet in the water when he was sleeping. Venerable Mahapussadeva attained arahanthood by practicing a way of contemplating his own steps back and forth, gata gata vata, for 20 years. Venerable Mahanaga, who lived at Kalivelli pavilion, could not attain enlightenment even though practiced meditation for 7 years without sleeping. Finally, he attained enlightenment only after practicing the way of the contemplation of steps back and forth for another 12 years. If practiced with right striving as the above mentioned venerable ones, you also will be able to even to attain the states of the fruition of Sri Mentara. There is no way to prevent death for one who has been born. Since you are going to die in any way, dying by practicing the Dhamma is hundreds and thousands times nobler. Therefore, do never be scared of making striving to destroy your defilements. While the aspirant Buddha, the Bodhisattva, was practicing austerities, the Mara approached him and pretended that he had compassion and instructed, "Do not die. through this practice of austerity. Save yourself. However, the Bodhisattva said, death in this battle with defilements is better than living in defeat. Sangamimi matan seyo yangche jive parajito. Remember that too, even though if you cannot attain a supramundane quality by practicing for 20 years in this life, like Venerable Mahapussadeva, the merit that you will acquire would be certainly immense. By the power of that, you would be able to attain Nibbana in a dispensation of a Buddha. Even by being born in heavens and being persons like who understands quickly Uggatitanya, who understands through elaboration Vipanchitanya. Okay. This is the descriptions that the Venerable Bhante says and encourages the followers or the readers how to put effort to gain these noble attainments. So, okay, yes. Are we going to discuss further, or anything to add or discuss? I'm just keep reading, so otherwise we can wind up here and do the rest in the next session. Let me know your thoughts.
It's what you read is clear, Bhante. It's
Yes.
well understood.
Is it okay to, then I can read some few more pages or to wind up here?
Yeah, we can continue, Bhante.
Yeah, okay.
That's right.
Okay. Right striving through one in its nature according to its functions is fourfold. The striving that make for the unarising of the unarising unwholesome thoughts, the striving that make for the abandoning of unarising unwholesome thoughts, the striving that make for the arising of wholesome thoughts which have not yet arisen yet, and the striving that make for the maintaining of wholesome thoughts which have already arisen. Unarisen, unwholesome means the unwholesome deeds such as killing, which will have to be done by beings either from this moment through this life or in the future lives. This is because of defilements in mind based on the objects of forms and their forcefulness and perversion. To the person who has not attained the state of fruitions of extreme enterer, by cutting off the personality belief, there is a possibility to committing any unwholesome deeds in this lifetime onwards and in the future lives as well, which cause to be born in hells. The persons who has not eliminated personality belief, whatever the position she holds, there is no guarantee of not committing unwholesome deeds. The ordinary person, though a very serious yogi and a great virtuous one today perhaps will be a person who is doing unwholesome deeds tomorrow. Our Buddhists become distressed when seeing a famous virtuous monk disrobe or committing another unwholesome thing, or even hearing of such things. They even think of changing their religion and insulting every single monk. That unrest is because of not understanding religion correctly. Forget about a future birth. What is really to be surprised is if an ordinary person were to be able to live refraining from unwholesome deeds. Even within one lifetime, there is nothing to be surprised of failure. That is the nature of the ordinary persons. Even some ordained persons who had different jhana, declining from them, have become low persons. So this point is quite interesting because, as mentioned here, the fact is to be surprised is refrain from unwholesome activities, not committing. So those who do not understand this fact, the religion, the Dhamma, they blame those who commit wrongdoings, maybe monks or even other people. So it is to be understood the nature of the ordinary, untaught ordinary persons. In the past, there was a novice pupil of an Arahant who had gained attainments. One day, seeing the Arahant was paying his reverential salutation, which a great pious at the great pagoda, Ruanveli in Sri Lanka, he said, Venerable Sir, would you mind offering some flowers to the Buddha? Then the Arahant said, well, dear novice, there is no other place where there are such a great lot of relics of the Buddha to be respected as here, and if there are some flowers who would not offer. Thereafter, the novice attained a jhana and went to the Himalayan woods and brought some fragrant and colorful flowers in his strainer for water and handed it over to the Arahant. Even before he steps from south to the west of the pagoda, or only a few flowers, the Arahant said, Venerable Sir, recollecting the virtues of the Buddha, please offer. The novice said, the Arahant, having taken the flowers, ascended the upper terrace and offered flowers around the pagoda. The whole platform was arranged with flowers, but the strainer was not yet empty. Then he offered flowers in the second and the third platforms too. Still there are flowers in the strainer. He then sprinkled flowers over the compound of the pagoda. That too filled the flowers, but strainer was not yet empty. Dear novice, flowers are not yet finished. The Arahant said, Venerable Sir, please put the strainer upside down and shake it. The novice said, the Arahant did so, and only then the strainer became empty. Now after the Arahant gave the strainer to him and came down to the sandy compound and respectfully circumambulated around the parapet wall with elephant heads, and while returning contemplated upon whether the novice would be able to protect this miraculous power longer, and understood that it was impossible. Then addressing him said, Dear novice, now you have this miraculous power, but in the future you will lose it and will have to live only on gruel prepared by a blind woman. Even after listening to this, the novice did not want to make striving to attain enlightenment by asking an object for his meditation from the Arahant. Later on, One day, while he was traveling through the air, he heard of singing girl while collecting flowers, and affected by lust, he lost his jahanic power. He then disrobed and started to live with her. He had to live on waving clothes. One day his wife brought his meal being quite late. He got angry and blamed her. She then said, "How come in other houses there are enough provisions and persons to assist and bring whatever need? In our home, there is not even a servant. You don't know what is available and unavailable. You know only to blame me. Either you eat or not. I don't mind or care." With this, he became furious and hurled the shuttle towards her. The point of the shuttle struck the wife's eye and she became blind. Then only it reminded to him the premonition given by the Arahant. On the day that the Arahant told him this, if he were to ask for the object of meditation and strove to practice, this novice could have been able to attain higher paths and fruitions, and would become a person who would never have committed unwholesome deeds. This fall down in his life was due to not striving. Not only that novice, it may happen to any ordinary person. Therefore, it not freed from worldly state. One should not be trustworthy of oneself, of not committing unwholesome deeds. In future, thinking I am a virtuous one, learned one, restrained one, or a monastic, forest dweller, alms eater, jhanic obtainer, or even an experienced person. One should practice the establishment of mindfulness and strive to attain at least the state of stream enterer. That is the striving to make for the unarisen of unarisen unwholesome thoughts. So this story shows no matter how much abilities that you gain by having jhanas, as this novice monk, that he had tremendous abilities with jhanas. When that venerable Arahant asked about flowers, that he went to Himalayas because that he had the jhanas and special abilities to perform the miraculous activities. So, but still, he was not gained some supra-mundane states. Then what happened to him was that's the nature of ordinary beings. No matter how much abilities he had, that still that he was able, he had to fell down to very unfortunate situation. So this shows the importance of putting effort to gain these supra-mundane states. Since this samsara is indispensable, indiscernible beginning, whoever we talk on the unwholesome deeds done by him, her in the past are immeasurable. Referring to any person, nobody can state that this particular person has not done this particular unwholesome deed. Of that mass of unwholesome deeds done in the past, only one part has come to end, as expired. There are a huge amount of unwholesome results which have not yet come to reap, as retribution and still waiting for an opportunity in future if one will never commit any unwholesome deed. In the future, that mass of unwholesome results themselves are enough for one to be born in the hell's realm of hungry gods and the animal realm for many, many times. Therefore, living without destroying those whole mass of unwholesome is certainly dangerous. One has to make striving to destroy it by any means. For the hell-bound karma could be sent to hell only until she has personality belief. In accordance with the total eradication of personality belief, that hell-bound karma also comes to expire. The greatest fear for beings wandering in samsara is a fear of hell. Otherwise, samsara is not that cruel. The stream enterer who has cut off personal beliefs has no such cruelty. For him, there are only the births of heavenly existence such as human, Deva and Brahma worlds. All hell-bound karma persist only by hanging on the personality belief. The thing to be done for the destruction of that personality belief is practicing meditation on the establishment of mindfulness. The striving that makes for the destruction of personality belief is the striving for the unarisen of unarisen unwholesome and overcoming of the arisen wholesome unwholesome. There is no other thing to be done for the purpose that practicing meditation on the establishment of mindfulness. The first and second strivings in regard to the present life are as follows. The defilements that have not yet arisen in one's mind as outburst, as well as the unwholesome deeds like killing that have not been committed so far, are the unarisen unwholesome. To the person who has defilements as underlying tendencies, there are opportunities for them to arise at any time. There are tendencies to commit unwholesome deed by the one who has defilement. I am not free from those defilements, though refrain from unwholesome in this life. If one has defilements in future lives, it would be certainly unavoidable. The first right striving here is a striving for the unarisen of unarisen unwholesome means the strenuous striving that one makes for unarisen of unarisen unwholesome, perfection of morality, and the development of establishment of mindfulness. Considering from this time until the attainment of Nibbana, I should not allow the unarisen unwholesome to arise in my mind. When we call arisen unwholesome are the defilements that have arisen in the mind, either in the past, in this life as outburst, or the unwholesome that had to be done like killing because of those defilements. The second right striving is a perseverance, an exertion of energy that completely uproots the dormant defilements. Accomplishment of morality and the practice of both serenity and insight meditation, which leads to thoughts of, if I allow those unwholesome thoughts to arise in my mind in this manner, again and again in future, I will never be able to be free from hell and not free from samsara. These unwholesome thoughts arise in my mind repeatedly because of the dormant defilements. I should not allow them to arise in my mind in the future. In this section of right striving, the classification of the wholesomeness should be described as a three training of morality: concentration and wisdom. And the seven purifications, like the purification of morality, their classification of arising and unarising nature could be explained referring to to this life and samsara. So, as mentioned before, there are three levels of the defilements. So, dormant level, then it can arise when certain object appear, unwholesome. Then it can come across through our body and speech. So that's what happen. That means beings do unwholesome activities because they have the dormant stage of defilements. Morality also is twofold, as mundane and supramundane. For the ordinary person, whether it is in this life or in samsara, supramundane morality is an unarisen wholesomeness. There are the 5 precepts, 8 precepts, the 10 precepts, the precepts for novices, and the precepts for higher ordination. All these are mundane. Since samsara is that long, it is to be said that all these precepts had been arisen wholesome for all beings in the past. In the present life, for the persons who has never ever observed precepts, all these precepts are unarisen wholesome. For the person who has observed the 5 precepts, it is arisen wholesome, and other precepts are unarisen morality. For the one who has observed 8 precepts, since the 5 precepts are also included, both 5 precepts and 8 precepts are arisen, wholesome, and others are unarisen. All these precepts are included in the precepts for higher ordination. Therefore, for the persons who has observed higher ordination, precepts, all these mundane precepts are arisen wholesomeness. Here, higher ordination, the precepts of higher ordination means upasampada sila. In the supra-mundane path, right speech, right action, right livelihood are supra-mundane morality. There is no stability in mundane morality. Even a skillful person can maintain it only during one lifetime. It will not go to the next life. Supra-mundane morality leads to all the way to Nibbana. One who has established on the supra-mundane morality, wherever he would be born in future, would never be immoral. In the supra-mundane path, through right speech, both unwholesome verbal conduct and the defilement that cause unwholesome verbal conduct are completely destroyed. Through the factor of right action, unwholesome bodily conduct and the defilement that cause unwholesome bodily conduct are completely destroyed. Through the factor of right livelihood, the defilements that cause wrong livelihood, as well as the bodily and the verbal unwholesome deeds done for living, are completely destroyed. So one can guarantee or ensure the sila only arising the supra-mundane sila, which means generating the noble path and the noble fruits. So that's what it said at the last. And before that, the mundane, whatever the virtues, as we've discussed so far, it is not enough. The reason is that he has remained the unwholesome within him, which can come out in any time and commit any sort of crime, as we've discussed before. So the best thing to assure is to gain these noble paths and the noble states. So that's what that we are supposed to do. I mean, the effort, put effort to gain those noble status. So I think that's enough for today. So anything to be discussed or clarified or add, or any suggestions about what we've discussed so far?
අවසරයි බන්තේ.
Yes.
So the right effort is also at two levels, mundane and supramundane. Is that right? Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So whatever the right effort as a at mundane level, whatever we develop, we don't sort of it does not become part of your like or rather in the next birth we had to start all over again basically.
Yes, but it has a sort of influence when we develop certain qualities like the bodhisattvas or whoever practice even good or bad. It has an influence in next lives. So it is not in vain, though we develop to certain levels, but the thing is, it's not assured.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So as we've discussed it, what about the next life? Even in this life, that novice monk had, miraculous
Yeah.
abilities, but still that he had to suffer a lot. So the thing is, it's not guaranteed or assured.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah. What they call as sasara purudda. So
Yes, yes.
does this contribute towards the sasara purudda?
Yes, of course.
Practicing, yeah,
Mm,
right effort, yeah.
yes. I mean, the good and the both, the bad, the both.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. That is called, I think, Upanishad or something. When you do things good or bad, it has an effect to generate the similar actions in the future.
Yeah. Thank you, Bhante.
Okay. This shows that how much that we should put, I mean, the effort, the striving to gain these noble states, noble attainments. Otherwise, no matter which positions that we have, hold, or whatever the things that we have, we are in a very, very dangerous situation. Because in the ordinary or the mundane level, which means that any sort of crime or bad thing can happen, unwholesome act can happen. Okay, then if not anything to be discussed, that we can wind up here, Mahinda Mahatmaya.
Nothing, Bhante. Yes, thank you.
Okay. Okay, then let's wind up our Dhamma discussion today. So today that we all discuss this noble Dhamma, and we generate enormous amounts of wholesome thoughts in our hearts. So let's transfer these merits to our departed relatives. Idammi ñāti nang hotu sukhita huntu ñātayo. Idammi ñāti nang hotu sukhita huntu ñātayo. Idammi ñāti nang hotu Sukhita huntu ñātayo. Let's share our merits to the Devas as well. Itthavata amhehi sambhatang punya sampadang sabbi deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhiyang. Itthavata amhehi sambhatang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhiyam. By the power of the merits that we've generated today, may lead us to supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Therwan
Therwan
saranai,
saranai, Bhante.
therwan saranai,
Therwan
therwan saranai,
May you have lot of merit, sadhu, sadhu.
therwan saranai.